Tak. Okej, podobno stąd mnie widać. Za chwilę na tej scenie, na zjeździe szkół demokratycznych EUDEC, it's okay. W Holandii, w szkole de Runte,
Ik heb er geen ontvang van.
który jest tutaj obok mnie. Hello.
Hello.
It's Peter, but we are very funny. Yeah. Peter napisał książkę Zamiast edukacji przymusowej. Dałam wam link w opisie tej relacji. A razem z Peterem usiądzie Margo, która jest tutaj obok mnie. Cześć Margo, pokażesz się jeszcze na chwilę. Yeah, people can want to see you.
Oh, people want to see.
Yeah. Margo na co dzień pracuje w szkole demokratycznej tutaj i pomogła nam na samym początku działania polskich demokratycznych. Jest okej?
Oh yeah.
Okej.
The viewers, the cake.
Z Margo będzie jeszcze z wami i will be here you, Peter,
Yeah, I will be in the audience, but
here you
I thought so, but I'm supposed to be in the audience, so it's okay.
all right.
I will listen
Okay.
and talk whenever I want to say something.
All right.
Yeah.
I będzie jeszcze Sifon ze Sri Lanki i Emanuela z Hiszpanii. Za chwileczkę usiądę.
Yes. I want to ask you something.
Yes.
Where do we use the film footage for?
It will be on my profile, but it's also Runte is on the commentary, so you can use it on the school page also.
Oh, okay.
It's there. It's online, so people can see it now.
Oh, it's live.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Maar ik wil er niet alleen voor het gaan.
Doen we een Brabants kwartiertje of gaan we gewoon beginnen?
Lekker beginnen dan.
Brabants kwartiertje is dat je een kwartier later begint dan dat je gezegd hebt. Okay, let's start and we will see who will come because a lot of times people come while we are starting up. So can I invite Emanuela from Italy? And Stefan from Sri Lanka. And Peter Hartkamp from the Netherlands. Please take a seat. And Bram, also a student in school in the Netherlands. You can sit wherever you want. Like a real television show, you're a panel, so you have a glass of water if you want. Do you want, Emanuela?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, because maybe you're a bit nervous and your throat is going to be dry and yeah. Yeah, let's hope we should. That's a Dutch glass. You also want?
You have more than me. Yeah, but
More. So what we're going to do is, this is a panel, and we wanted to make sure we have people from different countries and we have a student, and we're going to talk about the rights of the child in education. And I looked through some of the rights who are connected some way with education, and I made some statements. And I'm going to involve the public also. So when I will read a statement, I will ask you if you will stand up and go to the side where you have, you consent with. Like if I say, you think red is the most beautiful color there is, you go on this side. And if you have another favorite color, you will go on this side. So with every statement, I want you to ask to move, if you're able to. And then maybe I can ask you something like, why are you going to stay there, or why you choose for that side? And I also can ask the panel, what side would you take and why? Tell us why. Okay, clear?
Yep.
Any questions? No? Okay. So I put on my glasses, otherwise I can't see anything. So the first one is a right about freedom of thought and religion. So children can choose their own thoughts, opinions, and religion. Now the statement is, a democratic school can have a religion. And also think about, there are some anthroposophic democratic schools, and anthroposophic schools have a Christ belief. There is a Christ, not like a God on a cloud with a beard, but they have a sort of Christ thought. If you think that's okay, that a democratic school can have a religion, you go sit on this side, or stand. If you think it's not okay that a democratic school has a religion, you go on this side. So, no, no, a religion thought. A belief. A belief. Yeah.
So you think they can have or
Now, if they really say we are an anthroposophic democratic school, or we are a Christian democratic school, if you think that's possible and it's okay, you can be here. And if you think
the two things, it's possible or it's okay.
yeah, it's okay. You think it's okay.
Okay.
If you think it's, I agree with that. That's okay. If someone does that, and you still can be a democratic free school.
But do they impose it to the children?
Yeah, that's what we're gonna talk about. It's just a bit vague. That's the whole idea. You have to choose.
So polemic.
No additional details. You are gonna give me the details. So. And you can't stand in the middle. It's not allowed. Sorry, Margot. You have to choose in life.
She wants to split us.
Oh, yeah, she is. Okay. Who think it is possible will tell me something about it. Do you want?
Just short.
Yeah, okay, very short. For me, it's okay as long as the school will also allow other beliefs and religions.
Here, anybody?
Who wants to say something about it? Why you're here?
Almost the same things he said, basically. I mean, it really depends what level are we talking about religion. It's just that the staff person are inspired by certain spirituality or religion, that's okay, as long as it doesn't manipulate, they don't manipulate the rest of the community. So that's the most important thing, that there is a plurality of possibilities of being. And that's why if it becomes just the truth and the only truth, and the inspiration goes into manipulating and making belief change, that's not, that's completely against democratic basic existence.
So, Emanuela, what's your thought about this?
So I was thinking that it's okay that everybody can have his own beliefs and ideas, but I think that if teachers are intentionally sharing their ideas, it's quite impossible for someone to split between someone that can inspire you, like everybody. It could also be another kid. So if kids do it to kids, I think it's okay. If you are doing it intentionally as a teacher for trying to find sort of indoctrination style, then it's not okay anymore.
What do you think about this?
I believe that staff members are totally allowed to have a religion and also talk about their religion, but I think that imposing one religion within a school um, um, feels a bit like indoctrination to me. And I think that by not having one single religion, you allow the freedom of thought to be more fluent about all the possibilities.
Yeah, my question would be, what does it mean if a school has a religion? I thought only people could have a religion. But then again, if the school says I'm a Catholic school or Protestant or whatever religion, as long as it's meaningless inside the school, I think you should allow it. But then there's no point in having a school with religion. And as soon as it means something in the school, I think you shouldn't allow it. I think individuals can have whatever religion they want, but the school as such, I think, should be neutral.
Do you want to say?
So my thoughts are quite close to Peter's that so we should have a plurality of space for a plurality of views. So each person can choose whichever religious belief they want to, or choose not to have a religious belief also, or to have it fluid and that it's evolving. And if the school has a label that says it's a Catholic school, then it's not an equal space, because if you're Catholic, it's just a default. And if you're not Catholic, you have to justify why you're different. And that's the meaning part that you were saying. So I think when you have a label of a religion in the name or the identity of the school, it changes the shape and you don't have so much the freedom. And as individual human beings, staff members also have the right then to express their religious belief alone or with others. But I think we have to be conscious that if there is an authority of some form of staff versus students, then they're conscious about the fact that you as a student saying you're Catholic versus me as a staff member saying I'm Catholic has different implications on people.
Yeah, we once had, when we had the campagne in Amersfoort, there was a group who wanted to start an Orthodox Reformed Sudbury school in Amersfoort. We thought, oh shit, this is really, one school is really difficult enough, but then if they do it badly, that will reflect on us, so we better help them. And then we said, okay, we're going to help you, but then we had a long talk and said, well, most important thing is your school vision. And we gave the vision of our school, which is about people are curious, people are entrepreneurial, and those type of things. And they rewrote, they spent the whole summer discussing in the group, they rewrote the vision, and they made it into God made people curious, God made people entrepreneurial. And then when they did this whole thing, they came to the conclusion that the school is perfect as it is, and they put their children at our school. So there's a difference between pedagogy and religion. Just the religion is the next step, and it was for them totally okay to leave that out.
Thank you, lovely panel. So I have another statement, and it's about access to information. Children have the right to get information from the internet, radio, television, newspapers, books, and other sources. And adults should make sure the information they are getting is not harmful. So that means that you have to teach children what is fake news. And as a democratic school, this will be my statement, as a democratic school, you have an active role in teaching children what is fake news. That's the statement. If you think it's true that you have an active role, you go here on this side. If you think it's not an active role, we'll just find out when it happens, you stay here. Sorry? Sorry? An active role in teaching children, learn children, make sure as a team, as a teacher, that they will know what fake news is. You have to take an active role as school instead of waiting or just when it happens or don't do anything with it because you think it's not your responsibility. Is it clear for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Enoya, what do you think of this one? And I come to the public later, okay?
So I think that we have that adults have a responsibility about fake news. I don't think that we are able to explain it. I mean, we should not say these are fake news and this is not, but we should help them to see behind what can create a fake news, how it is made. For example, we had done something like very funny. It was like trying to invent a different kind of species. That's not an animal. That's not a plant. And it happened only because we was like playing with little kids. And at some point, people at our school was believing in it. Right now, they believe that this kind of animal exists. They are have a species and everything like normal nomenclatura, you know, the specific name. Yes. And with older kids, we talk about what we have done. We didn't want to do it. It's only happened. But this is what can happen when fake news grow and spread. So yeah, I think we have to take an action.
I find it hard to conceptualize that we could be in a position to teach children about fake news when we seem not to be in a position of being able to identify it ourselves. So, what I would rather say is that we should not hide that and pretend we've got it figured out and this is how you should do it and these are the 10 steps and whatnot, but rather just expose our vulnerability and our incapability and just see how we all, whoever is in our community, can support each other in this, and especially be open to the idea that children could have some perspectives that can help us. And so we shouldn't go in with the idea that we are here to help the children, because then we're sort of saying that, you know, it's coming from us to you and you have to receive. And I don't think we have the credentials or evidence to back up that stance.
I think we as a school should not teach kids what is fake news and what isn't. But I do believe that it's important to for kids to recognize what fake news means. And I think the way of teaching that within a democratic school is a rather complex subject, because I don't think we should have mandatory classes in which kids are being taught this information. But I do think it's important for kids to realize what is fake news and not. And I think that that is a place for an adult to explain. But I do not concretely know how you should form that within a democratic school.
I think that someone or an organization who can determine what fake news is, I think that's for sure is fake news. I think we don't have a role at teaching anything at all. I think at school we just work as a community, and if things come across which are ridiculous or you don't agree with it, you say something about it. But I think everybody has the right to find out for himself and to find his way in between. There's lots of fake news, of course. But I think that's part of functioning as a human, to sort out what news you can use and what news you can't use, and what information is valuable and what information is not valuable.
So, dear audience, can anybody on this side explain or give an example of how you should do that? An active role in learning children about fake news. Somebody on this side?
Thank you. I think that there is a difference in between forcing the kids to participate in workshops and another one in keeping the bubble of the democratic school outside of the society. So when we speak about fake news, actually we're speaking about media literacy, which is much more wider than that. It's disinformation, misinformation, cyberbullying. It has to do also with body shaming. It has to do with ideals of success. And I do feel, and we have implemented this, I have implemented it a couple of times, voluntary workshops in which the kids can learn how to navigate through media messages, how to contrast information, how to back up assertions, how to question. It has to do with epistemology and also with themselves being critical towards knowledge. But definitely, we cannot teach anything if the person is not ready to learn. And we cannot teach ourselves if we are not ready. So I think that there could be this kind of provocations, which can be very useful to reflect as citizens, where do we stand, what are our values, and start building on that in common actions.
And on this side, who wants to?
I think we don't have to, because when a news is fake, we already judge it on the fake news. But I think we should learn children to follow their own feeling. Like, oh, I feel that this is to give them the tools that they can follow their own feeling. Yes. When we give them that tools, then they can follow a few, oh, that's fake, or that's not real or honest. Yeah.
Thank you. So the next one is about no discrimination. All children have all these rights, no matter who they are, where they live, what language they speak, what their religion is, what they think, what they look like, if they are a boy or girl, if they have a disability, rich or poor, and no matter who their parents or families are, or what their parents or families believe or do. No child should be treated unfairly for any reason. So the statement is, as a democratic school, you can't say no to a kid. So if a kid knocks on your door at your school and says, I want to be in school, you have to accept this kid. If you think that's true, you stay on this side. And if you think we can say no to a child, you go to this side.
And what time in the morning are they knocking on my door?
Anytime, sometimes in night.
So what side is which?
Yeah, this is when you think.
But no, wait, I have a.
Yeah, a statement is always a bit like spicy, yeah? So to make the people.
Which side is it?
This is when you say you cannot say no. So you have to take in any child what wants to be in your school. Thank you.
Cannot say no.
Must say yes.
You must say yes, because it's a child and this child want to be in your school. So the underlying question is, are you discriminating when you say no or not? Okay. First I go to the audience this time and then to the panel. So who wants to share their thoughts about this? You?
I'm really curious why Margot is
Yeah,
here.
because in the morning you said the opposite. That's why I'm here, because I heard you.
But actually, I want to say that the whole community has to say yes. So, and that sometimes it's a no. And I cannot say, give one particular reason why it's going to be a no, but
Can you give an example? What was when did you say no to a child in your school?
well, when you see that a child is not integrating in the concept or has a lot of conflicts from the beginning on, or a child cannot see the importance or feel the importance or know the importance yet of respecting the rules that are already made, or and understand the concept that he can change the rules with new proposals, or yeah, sometimes a child is so traumatized that we cannot guarantee the safety for the environment. You know, there are all kinds of reasons, and it's not specific one reason. But sometimes you say no. But probably Margot is over there because you always have an intake. You know, you always have a period of 4 weeks where you can meet each other and experience the yes or the no.
Okay. Now, Margot, everybody wants to know. So what is me in this question is that I never say no to a child. It's not about the child. The child is okay. It is about, for me, it's about, do we think that the free learning environment is helping this kid to develop? And sometimes it's not yet there, or it's not, and of course it's not only one person who decides, it's the community. But in our school, it's never about, we are not going to take you because you, blah, blah, blah. Never. They are very good kids, but so it's also about the concept of free learning. If we as a community thinks that is a good deal, it's not about the child. So, ask the lovely panel.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think you should be able to say no. Then again, it should be on specific criteria which are clear beforehand, like the safety of the school community. I think for the rest of our school, for instance, there's no reason not to accept the child except behavior in the school. If the concept doesn't work for students, they come to that conclusion themselves. And if they're very unhappy with it, you see it back in behavior. But then it's back to behavior again.
I of course believe that no child should be not accepted solely because of their ethnicity or religion or orientation or anything along those lines. But I do think we should truly look at which kid we take into the community, because if it doesn't fit in that specific community at that time, I don't think it will be in the best interest of that kid to be taken in. And I also think that, for example, if you have a school with 120 kids and 30 of them have severe anger issues, I think that it will be not only worse for the learning environment, but I also think that that will be dangerous for the kids that are attending the school. Yeah.
I think there's something a bit lost in translation when we use the word discrimination, because the etymology of it is from distinguish between or making a distinction. And so, for example, if I'm choosing somebody to get married with, and also recognizing that the other person is also choosing, I think I have to be discriminate, and I'm not going to marry everybody. Right? And there will be certain aspects that I would use in making that decision. Now, in that context, if I am choosing that this person is a female, then nobody, I think, will accuse me of being sexist for that. But there is a similar decision, I think, when if there's a particular child who wants to join the school, I think we should make a differentiation or a choice or a decision about that child. But if it's turning out that we're accepting all the boys and not accepting any of the girls, then this is more likely evidence of conscious or unconscious prejudice, which is, I think, really the word that is intended when we talk about non-discrimination. So before considering the merits of the person, it's already out. No, this is a refugee and we don't want the refugees, or this is a girl and we don't think girls should have education. So it's already prejudged before the merits of the individual child or marriage partner. So I think prejudice is a problem, And we should be kind of aware that it can be blind. And then it's sometimes only when we look at our patterns that we realize, actually somebody mentioned it here, that there's a lot of women here, but not many women actually on stage. And except when we made a conscious choice, I mean, not just this, but overall, right? And we made this conscious choice that we need to have also a child participation, because otherwise we have a bunch of adults talking about child rights and children. But then if you look at the schedule, how many things in the schedule are offered by children, right? So then sometimes it's like, oh, well, maybe we haven't created a supportive enough environment to make it accessible for some groups.
So for me, if some kids are coming and knocking on the door, I will open it, because I mean, this will be fantastic. It's quite impossible that it happened. It never happened to us. So I think this person must be so high motivated, also because we are on a hill. So it's very far away from the city. So, but on the other hand, I think that every child is welcome. But if these persons really cannot fit, I think he will find it out, and he will see, or she will say how he's doing. But for me, this can be a sort of discrimination if the family is not choosing democratic education, because from my perspective, sometimes families arrive only because they have like problems, they don't know what to do, and they are searching up a space where to put their child. So in that case, no, it cannot fit. It's not that the kids are not fitting in, but it's the family, they are not ready to join us.
Thank you. And I'm taking the advantage of controlling the microphone, so I want to say also something. Because we are a woman, so otherwise Sipan will be disappointed. No, two things. I think the young people here, they have a lot of program, but they don't put it on a board, because maybe then a lot of adults will attend. So I think they have a really an informal program. I've seen it. Yeah, and that's okay, that's good. The other thing is, I completely agree with you. Every child should have a chance. In our school, it's like, what are the needs of the child, and can we provide it? Because some kids with disabilities have such needs that it's not education anymore, but it's like care, and the team maybe is not qualified or not able to do it, or maybe it's too heavy because we already have a kid who takes more effort from the staff. So it's about balance, I think. And if it's possible, it's a yes, no matter what. And if the balance is like it's enough as it is, you can say no, even it's a pity. You have to say no, because it's awful to say no to a kid. Yeah, and I'm agree. It's not a no to the kid, but
It's not a no to a kid.
yes. Always make sure that you make that clear. Yeah. So the next one is the first how do you call it? The first rule of the rights of the child. It's number 1, and it's a definition what a child is. Here it is. A child is any person under the age of 18. That's the first statement of the rights of the child. So if you think that's true and it has to keep that way, it has to stay that way, you go here. So when you're 18, you're an adult. That's okay, that's a good thing, and it has to be that way. And if you think, well, maybe you can be an adult when you're 16, or maybe you have never thought about adult, child, and the border between those two, you can stay here. Okay, it's not on my paper, but so just I took it from internet, from official website. It's the first thing.
definition of a child.
Is it clear for everybody?
Could be more use than.
Everything is safe, everybody.
Yeah, let's just say it's okay, protect people, and it's sort of, yeah, maybe, oh yeah, I don't want to fill in anything because it's your own fault. Okay, so, Bram, what do you think? Is it good?
I don't have a very strong opinion on this. That's what I want to say first. But I do think that everybody develops at a different pace. But I do think that for making rules, it is not a bad thing to just draw a clear line, so it's easier. But I, for the rest, don't really have a strong opinion on this.
Actually, I'm against any definition of child. I think what you do is you put young people apart from humanity. A few years ago, I read a book it's called Childism, and childism was seen in the same logic as racism and sexism. I think as soon as you put a group apart, then people start to think and have opinions about it and have judgments about it. I think if you have young people, you have younger people and older people, and if you look at discrimination, I think age discrimination is one of the things which is not allowed, and it's happening everywhere. But I think, especially to children of young people, it's about age discrimination. I think in that sense, there are some useful things in the Charter of the Right of the Child, but mostly they are human rights. So why do a separate charter for young people? In the human rights treaties, there's nowhere stated you only become a human when you're 18, and the child rights is now saying implicitly that, which I think is ridiculous.
I'm not so sure what to say. I would say that kids are human being, young human being, but actually prefer persons or human being. But I'm not totally agree with saying that they have an age. Also because if I'm thinking about 17-year-olds thinking about themselves, they are kids or children. I think it's, oh, I think back to myself when I was 16 and someone would call me children. I was thinking, no, but if this helps us right now in this moment, this society, to give more rights to this kind of population, I will be okay with this definition. Just because we are not a perfect world, so better that than nothing. But I will prefer saying only human being or persons.
So I would have maybe preferred if, so the UDHR doesn't differentiate between men, women, adults, children. It's like all human beings. But nevertheless, within 20 years, we had a convention on eliminating discrimination against women. Convention on eliminating discrimination against women. So I'm not sure why we then also didn't have a convention on eliminating discrimination against children rather than a convention on the rights of the child. And to acknowledge that this is a group that is marginalized in many ways, and we need to acknowledge that they are marginalized so that we can change it, because if we pretend that there is no marginalization, then nothing changes. So in that sense, recognizing that children have rights is sort of a stepping stone in that, but the labeling of it stopping at 18 kind of things is problematic, because then it kind of divides the world into children and adults. And I'm always thinking there's nothing magical that happened on my 18th birthday that now suddenly qualifies me to be an adult. And yesterday I couldn't buy tobacco and now today I can. It just doesn't make sense. And I mean, I'm sure all of us know adults who do a lot of stupid things. So why do we assume that only children do stupid things? I mean, sometimes we'd say, look at somebody who's doing something stupid and say, it's okay, he's an adult, he can decide for himself. But why is that qualification only coming because he's an adult? Why is it not just well, he's a human being and he can decide for himself. And we seem to think that's not the case. So I think we have a lot to unpack in the prejudices. So even, for example, when Peter Gray says that children need a wide variety of adults who are helpers, not judges, I'm like, why not just say human beings need a wide variety of human beings who are helpers, not judges? Why is it that only the children need the adults?
Thank you. So I have Tycho here in the audience. Maybe he wants something to say about this.
So I think, well, I'm sorry. So I'm sitting here because I think not that when you're 18 you are an adult, but you're an adult for the law. So you can make certain laws, like you can buy alcohol when you're 18, not younger. But that doesn't mean that when I just turned 18, now oh, I'm an adult, I'm 19 now, I still am a child, but for the law, I'm an adult, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah.
You're right.
Thanks. The ability to execute some rights obviously doesn't come with a specific age. And we have a great concept of licenses in democratic schools for Lego or I don't know, knife. And also in big democracy, to become a driver, you need to prove certain knowledge, certain skills, and it doesn't come with an age. And you get more rights then. So as you get quite old, you also meet some doctors to prove that you are still capable of executing that right to drive your car. So if it works with Lego in democratic schools and driver's license in big democracy, let's break it into many little proofs of capability of execution some right.
Thank you. Yeah, it's okay.
So I agree with the broader principle of what Yura is saying, but I also see a lot of potential for abuse. So if the right to vote was determined on a license, then I would very much see that certain groups that are already marginalized would never get the license to vote, right? Because there will be some justification of why you're not voting properly. Like, we can't trust you to vote, right? And then, and because it's about who gets to vote for the people who make the rules. Whereas with the driving license, it's separate, right? So I think in that sense, there should be a clause that, okay, you can get a license to vote, which say in the school meeting can be when you're 4 or 7, or doesn't matter, whenever it is. But if it comes to representative democracy and the right to vote in your country, then maybe you could get it earlier than 18. But even if you fail all the tests, there has to be an age by which you get it. So at 18, even if everybody says you're not qualified to vote, you still have the right to vote.
Thank you.
May I have a little example?
Yes.
For example, a little example how to execute the right to vote is that you would get a check for, let's say, 10 euros. This is the amount of money the party gets for your vote in Slovakia, 10 euros, okay? So you get, let's say, a half of the year in advance, you get a check for 10 euros. So you either lose it or go to the post or bank and they give you 10 euros, or you either save it for 6 months and then you go and vote. This can be very easy proof that you are capable of thinking, okay, in few months I need this piece of paper and I can vote with it, or I'm interested more in 10 euros because I don't care.
If you're really poor, you need the 10 euros.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's example.
Okay, thank you. So the next one is respect for children's views. Children have the right to give their opinions freely on issues that affect them. Adults should listen and take children seriously. So if I read this really clear, I can make a statement and say that they only can give their opinions freely on issues that affect them. Is that true? The statement is, I make it so, like it's a statement.
So you can disagree.
So you can disagree. it's literally what stands here. I can read it again. Children have the right to give their opinions freely on issues that affect them. Adults should listen and take children seriously. So if you think that's the truth, that they can only give their opinions freely on issues that affect them, you can stay here. And if you think, no, they can give their opinions on everything. You can be on this side.
Otherwise, I
I'm
yeah,
on the
I
good
have to-
side.
Yeah.
You have to get around moving.
Yeah.
Jacqueline, what doesn't affect? Yeah.
So?
Jerry says, what doesn't affect?
Why are you guys still sitting here?
It's part of the question. Yeah. I was really thinking about leaving.
Okay. I first go to the audience.
Zit helemaal in mijn hoofd.
Who wants to say something about this?
Ja. Oké.
I think this is the easier one, actually. But yeah, I think children can have opinions about everything. And even if they don't really know anything about it, they can have an opinion and give it and listen to other one's opinions. And we should just listen. And most remarkably, I think if you really listen to what very young children sometimes have to say, either in our school meeting and probably in other schools' meetings as well. It's quite astonishing what kind of brightness they have, even better eloquent, or they can better describe things or come with solutions that we don't even think of. So I think we really should give them all the freedom to share their opinions on whatever they feel they want to share it with or about.
Do you think they have to rephrase this sentence?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it's so, especially that's why I take
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
Someone on this side. Marieke?
Yes, I think that the way you put it in the statement, of course, is the way that you can read it. But I think that it's just like the first one, children are la la la. It's a definition. And I think these kinds of statements are sort of made like when you have a relationship, you can make rules for when it goes wrong, and then you know how you want to act. So you can define anything, and it can be, yeah, very, very uitgebreid. But then it's more that you think, what are the outlines? And that's what you describe, so that you have a clear point on that. And of course, then when you look at that, in my perspective, is that's also what we do in the school. There's a rule and there's a situation, and then you look at the situation and it's a measurement device, so you can use it like that. And of course, I agree with everyone else that it should, but I think this is the way it's meant to be.
So because the danger of this is like, I come with you. The danger is like a child could say, I have a right for an opinion, and the adult could say, oh, but only the things that affect you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I just want to tease you a little bit.
I think that kids have the right to have their own opinion, and I also think that everybody in the environment where they are growing should support this having opinion and sometimes making questions about this question. I mean, interesting questions so that someone can think about, because we are learning to think by thinking. We are learning to have your opinion by thinking about what we think about. So if we're not doing this, we cannot learn it. And I think it's the basic of having a self idea about everything. Having a critic idea about life, or having the courage to take an action that maybe in the future, and so on.
So when it comes to the wording of the statement, I think the reason why it says on all matters affecting the child is that I suspect that at some point there had been an intention to make a list of the matters under which the child has a right to be heard. And then a decision was that we shouldn't have such a list. We should keep it open to all matters affecting the child. And I think a sort of constructive way to use that is that if I'm expressing an opinion, which is just freedom of expression, right? That doesn't mean that somebody has to listen to me and take any account of it, right? But the right to be heard is explicitly there, and it's not a right that is generally accorded to adults because sort of we assume adults can make themselves heard. It's not quite true. There are many marginalized groups, but that was assumption. But children are often denied the right to be heard, and therefore it was explicitly recognized. But in practice, the more I can show that the reason I'm concerned about this is because it has this impact, the more likely it is that people will listen to me, right? So if I just say climate change is bad, it's one thing. If I can explain what climate change is going to cause and what is the consequence of it, then it's more likely to be heard. A more dangerous thing, which I think is not there in the version you're referring to, was that the article in 1989 said, shall assure the right to a child capable of forming his or her view, right? Which is like shooting yourself in the foot, right? Yeah. Because a child who has a view obviously thinks that I'm capable of forming a view. Why else do I have a view? So it's only an adult who wants to ignore the child who would say that, no, no, you're not capable of having this opinion, you should shut up, right? So they actually put a gaslighting clause into the convention, and it took some people quite a lot of creative work to come up with a way of diffusing the situation by basically saying we have to assume the child is capable of forming a view, and if at all you have to prove that this child is not capable, and otherwise you have to accept that the child is capable. So I think it's coming from the fact that there's been a long story in how children were recognized as the subject of rights, and it's still very much a work in progress, which is why even though the treaty recognized that children have a right to be heard, they didn't consult children in formulating the treaty. You have a right to be heard after this treaty. Not now.
Yeah.
I think the reason, yeah, I think the fact that you guys are sitting here at EUDEC 2024 means that you guys agree with the fact that kids could have opinions on any matter, basically. So I think it's a weird statement to say that kids could only have opinions about their matters that concern them, because I think everything could concern someone. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if you think, I think we have to go back to the treaty. The first part is do children have the right to have opinions about things which don't concern them. If I look at my own daughters, whether it's a right or not, they have an opinion regardless, and they will tell it. I'm not sure whether it's a right or not. People will do it anyway. But I think concerning the treaty, I think the idea was that it's to prevent from adults deciding about children, over children, without even listening to what the child thinks about it himself. I think the next step, of course, there's the gaslighting clause if the child is capable. I mean, that's correct. But I think for children, for things concerning children themselves, I think they should be able to decide for themselves. Maybe not alone, and of course, it can depend on the context, but in the end, they need to be making decisions themselves. Like whether to go to school or in what type of school, those type of things. So I think it's not to be heard is quite, can almost be meaningless. You can listen to somebody and do the opposite. I mean, it still doesn't say anything. It's about the decision making, and that's not in the treaty. And there was, I think I mentioned it in my presentation on the book as well, Robert Epstein, a pretty well-known American psychologist, wrote a book, Case Against Adolescence. And one of the things he did, he made a list of, I think, 42 items, which general healthy adults who live in normal circumstances, they like 40 or 41 of the 42, they can decide for themselves how to do it. And then he gave the same list to in the military, in the Marine Corps, because that's a highly restricted environment where the Marines can't do very much. And they still scored, I think, out of the top of my head, like 30 or 35 out of 42. Then he gave the same list to prisoners, and they still came slightly behind Marines. And then they gave the list to secondary school students, and they scored way lower than prisoners. I think they had only 20 or 25 out of the 42. I think that's how much restricted well, teenagers are. Can you imagine how restricted people below that age are? And so I think that's where the young people should be able to decide for themselves. And they're so restricted now, and it's getting worse and worse.
So not only an opinion, but also a decision.
Yeah,
should be in
it's about decision making.
Okay, thank you. So, time flies when you have fun. So I think it's about time, but I have one left. Do you want to have one last one?
Yes.
Okay, feel free to go if you want to go. When you're bored. People do anyway, I think. Okay, it's about protection of privacy. Every child has the right to privacy. The law must protect children's privacy, family, home, communications, and reputation, or good name, from any attack. So the statement is, and now I have to think to get you moved, eh?
I'm stuck to my
Okay,
chair.
the statement is that because as a school, that's our perspective, you have to write a lot of things about those kids from inspection. It's maybe different in every country, but a lot of countries, as a school, you're forced to write down all sort of things about development and so on, and marks for subjects or something like that, results of exams. Okay, then there can be a child who says, I don't want you to write down anything about me. Maybe my name, the telephone number of my parents, because when there's something wrong, you have to call them, that's okay. But otherwise, I don't want you to write down anything. And you will know, that's it's an assumption, but the inspection will not take this. They will try to force you to write it down anyway. So the people who are saying that I will respect the child's choice and I won't write it down and I will gonna fight with this inspection guy or girl or person, it's gonna sit on this side. And if you say, well, all the trouble of the thing, it's the law, we have to respect the law, we're living in this country, we're democratic, this is the way how it's done, and the child has to accept that. Anyway, I have to write down some things because it's mandatory. You can stay on this side. They moved. Wow, I did it. So,
I did it.
who wants to, who was here and wants to say something? Derry?
Once in my career, I was responsible for what's called the sixth form in a big English school, about 150 students. And our way around this, we were required to keep records, but our way around it was to open the records to the students. So every student could read their own record, and every student can challenge anything in the record that had been written by a teacher, and then it could be changed.
Exactly.
Thank you. So, who wants to say something on this side?
It seems to me fairly straightforward that things shouldn't be written down unless a person explicitly wants to. They should never
So no one should ever be assessed at all in life unless they agree to it. Anything. It's a moral issue for me. So writing something down about somebody, if you ask them to write something, which is what we have a termly meeting with the parents, and we ask the student to write something down. If they refuse to write something down, that is fine. We will not divulge to authorities unless the child says that they will have something divulged. And it is always the choice of the child. There is no deviation from that, and there mustn't be, in my view. I take this as a moral position.
So you're going to fight the inspection.
So who wants to start about this one?
I would say the right to privacy is not only about whether it's written down or not, but whether it's observed at all in the first place. And so when I walk around here, I see a variety of people of different ages doing things. And they don't have to justify why they're doing it. And nobody's making note of, oh, well, you attended so many sessions and you played this much games on your phone, or like nobody cares, right? Because we have a very intentionally trustworthy environment here. But I think still, if I was having something that looked like plastic explosive and having something that looked like a detonator and was like sticking wires into each other things, then somebody might be like, you know, I'm a bit concerned, are you building a bomb? And if there is a legitimate concern that some harm could be done, and you know, somebody's setting up some wood here and it looks like they're going to have a illegal bonfire, right? So excuse me, what's going on here? This is not on. And in such a situation, so if a child has a knife in his hand, I might want to know, I mean, this is something potentially dangerous. I want to know what's happening here. But I would also want to know if it's an adult with a knife, right? It's not very specifically age-based, but so if there is some suspicion or doubt of a possibility of harm, maybe the child has to assure that, okay, this is what I'm doing, and I'm not trying to blow up the school. No, I'm just playing Jenga with the sticks. It's not a bonfire. That's it. That to that level, your privacy may be invaded for the safety of everybody. But beyond that, I shouldn't even have to say, what did I learn today, or what did I do today? I shouldn't even have to face the demand of answering that question.
I was thinking something like you are saying, for example, if I would know that someone is sharing pictures of someone else in his phone, for example, and they are not nice and the other person don't want it, I think I feel responsible that this should not happen, and I think we should talk about it. Also, if it's something that should be private because it's your phone and you are technically allowed to do whatever you want, but this is something that hurts someone else. But if I'm thinking about this example, like the school inspection, I think the kids have the right to decide what they want that I write inside and what not. But since I'm not a fighter for this kind of stuff, because I don't have them, I mean, my life is not so long, so I can only fight for something that can make a change. I will suggest that I write a nice story about you, that's not you, and we agree maybe that we can send this because I don't care about it, you don't care about it, but we have to write something down because it's written inside, so that's it. And I think it could be very well done.
Fake news.
Yeah, fake news.
Yeah.
Good thing.
They know it.
Yeah, at current the traditional schools in the Netherlands, everything is measured and tracked and kept in a large database of every single students, and all teachers have access to it.
Parents.
And parents, and actually the system sends push notifications to parents to know that their child was late or has a mark and things like that. And I asked the system is called Magister.
Oh, no.
And then I asked one of her students, said, let's do a test. I didn't tell her the test, and I looked at her and I said, magister, as he really physically shook, because it's so horrible. So I think if you talk about privacy, yeah, we should really get rid of things like this, and it should really be the young people decide whether things are tracked on them at all.
I think that if a kid does not want something to be written down, I think they should be listened to, and I think you should try to fight the inspection in getting the wish of the kid. But I also think that there's more battles to be fought, and I think that um, um, doing this for loads of kids and the inspection is very stubborn. I think that it also isn't that big of a problem for the school. I think maybe if the kid truly does not want this and the inspection does not allow for the kid to not want this, I think it might not be a good fit for the school. Yeah, but I think then the inspection needs to be changed.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So I'd like to add another right into this mix, and not only about the right to privacy, which is the right to the highest standard of health. And imagine at the end of it, Jacqueline hands out this questionnaire to all of you to test how well you have been listening to us. And if you fail, you've got to come back tomorrow and do it again. You have to keep on coming back until you pass, right? Which is what we do to children. Or that we don't, but generally, yes. And I think there's a very different perspective of this, that somebody could say, I'm not sure I fully understood all of the things going on because this is something new to me. And I would like, if you could give me a questionnaire so I can assess for myself whether I got it or not. So I put in my answers, you can give the feedback, which is only coming to me, and then I can decide what I want to do with it. So if you see that you've understood what we said well, but not so much what Peter said, then you can say, Peter, I'd like to spend some time with you if you're available because I want to understand this better. So then it's very much a self-assessment supported by somebody you trust, because if you don't trust Jacqueline's questionnaire, you'll just throw it away. And assisting you to get more support if you want to do that. So, and when we impose testing on people, that creates so much pressure, right? I mean, imagine if somebody is asking me, am I able to urinate? Right? And I could answer yes or no. But if somebody says, well, we want to see whether you're capable of urinating, so you have to now get on this pedestal and we're going to have this panel with a checklist. And then I'm like, oh my God, now they're checking if I'm holding it right. And I, right? And I can just imagine that the whole nervousness of this can then mean that I'm not urinating properly. And they're going to say, see, this is why we needed an independent assessment. Right? And then like, I'm ending up as a nervous wreck with anxiety and depression and have to go and get medicine.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, just one moment. Yeah. Well, shall we end with you? Anyone?
Yeah, we had 2 years ago in the Netherlands, a number of inspectors went to a number of democratic schools. And there were some very inexperienced inspectors, which did a lot of damage at the schools, actually asking really the wrong questions, looking at the different wrong things wrongly. And I called all the schools to see what happened, and we made an overview of it, and then we made a little table saying how does the inspectors need to behave according to the law. And then we actually started assessing the inspectors, and we came out 2 were okay, 2 were doubtful, and 2 were actually really bad. And actually 1 we scaled down to harmful. And we shared this table with the inspectorate. We discussed it with her, and she really didn't like it. She said, why are you doing this to us? They said, well, this is what you're doing to us all the time. But by the way, you're scoring okay, so that's no problem.
So, Erik, you will be the last, and then.
No, I think it was about wording because we're saying we're going to fight the inspection. We're not. We, yeah, of course you want to have this, but we can play them, and we're doing that actually pretty well these days. So we're growing.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. This was our panel. Give them a big applause because they're heroes. Thank you all. And have a nice meal. We have a barbecue tonight.